Greetings and welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be telling you all about my favorite books of the year. And if you see me looking down throughout my descriptions of these books, I did take the time to write down my thoughts on the books and the names of the characters and stuff like that. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. Also, this list is in no particular order. I don't have a ranking. These are just my favorite ones that I read in 2023. If I had to put them in an order, I don't know that I could. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first book on this list is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. Salt to the Sea is historical fiction and it follows 4 main characters. This story follows Amelia, Florian, Joanna, and Alfred. They each have very different stories, very unique perspectives on the situation that happens within this book, very unique circumstances by which they are thrown into the story. So Amelia is a 15-year-old Polish girl with a secret. It's a big secret too. And we meet her in the beginning along with Florian, who actually saves Amelia from a German soldier. Right at the beginning, she's hiding in a cellar and he ends up saving her life. Florian is a 19-ish-year-old German boy, and you find out more about him. I feel like if I say much about him, it'll be spoilerish. Him and Amelia are the first two that you meet, and right off the bat, their relationship, I loved their relationship. They have very much a big brother, younger sister vibe right off the bat, and he didn't necessarily want to fill that role for her, but he did, and I just really loved the two of them and their interactions. Third, we have Joanna, who is slightly older than a teenager. We never really get her distinct age, but she is a physician's assistant. They all end up traveling together, these 3, along with a few other side characters who are amazing and so lovable, and it's a little tragic. And then fourth and finally, we have Alfred, who is an entitled little German soldier boy who is slightly delusional. I really love the depth of Ruta Sepetys' characters and the intensity of her situations that she throws them into, and it was so good, and I 100% would recommend it. Just have a tissue box nearby, because it doesn't end really well. It ends okay, just not in the way you want it to. That's all I'll say. The second book that I'm going to talk about today is Out of the Easy by Ruta Sepetys. This is also historical fiction, and this is the story of Josie Moraine, who is the daughter of a prostitute living in New Orleans during the 1950s. Basically, Josie dreams of a bigger life than what her mom expects of her. She dreams of going to college, and she takes every step possible towards that dream. She did not let her circumstances determine her life or her future or her outcome. And I loved her as a character. I loved the lengths that she was willing to go to in order to not be like her mom, to not live up to the family name. She really went out of her way to make a name for herself, make her own name for herself. And it was just very well done. Even the way the mom is portrayed, it's very atmospheric. Whenever Josie is sitting across the table from her mom talking to her, you feel like you're a fly on the wall just listening to the conversation. That's how real it felt to me. So the third book that I'm going to talk about on this list today is Run on Red by Noelle Ihli. Could just be that I don't read many thrillers, and therefore I don't really know what I'm talking about when it comes to a good thriller, but I absolutely loved this book. In this book, you are following Laura and Olivia, who are 2 college friends who are on their way to a little bonfire party out in the middle of nowhere of rural Idaho. Basically, while they're on their way to this fun little bonfire thing, they're all dressed up for a party type of thing, they end up on this little 1-lane road, and they end up getting followed by this mysterious large truck, and they end up at a dead end on this little 1-lane road, and this truck is still behind them. Basically, these 2 dudes are so desperate to kidnap them that they end up tracking them all through the woods of rural Idaho. It's very dramatic. And these two women are also not dressed for the elements. They're dressed for their fun little bonfire party. And so one of them is like wearing a sparkly top. Yeah, looking like a disco ball in the moon. Not a good look when you've got a stalker. It's just the story of them fighting the elements, fighting off these two men. And yeah. I will say there is some mild language in this book, and there's also some mild gore that happens. Nothing too Stephen King, but it's definitely there. Something to be noted. The next two books that I'm going to talk about are Dance of Thieves and Vow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. I adored this duology. It was fan-freaking-tabulous. I loved it so much. Come to find out, I was supposed to read the trilogy, the Remnant Chronicles trilogy first, but I did not. I read the duology first, and I think it is very telling that even though I read it out of order, I still understood everything perfectly. I understood the world perfectly. There were a few like gaps in the world building that I didn't quite understand, but I was able to get past them very easily just because of other descriptions, if that makes sense. So in this book, you follow Cassie, who is a legendary former street thief. Think Aladdin, but a girl and a little bit cooler. Yeah, that's Cassie. So she is sent with another small group to investigate some land issues, some land border issues, kind of. She's sent to investigate this whole situation, and that's when she meets Jace Ballinger, who is the other main character that you follow in this story. And he is the young new ruler of this kind of outlaw kingdom that is not really supposed to exist, but it does. It's one of those types of things. And, you know, they have to kind of fight to keep their territory. Cassie's queen is like, no, they're not really supposed to exist. So, you know, Cassie's a little bit torn about this whole situation, especially because she does not meet Jace on very good terms. Like, her first impression of him is not fantastic. And, yeah, all chaos ensues from there because they end up getting kidnapped together by this third party I'm not going to tell you about. It's great. It's great. It really is. It's so dramatic. And I grouped these two books both in there together just because they're both fantastic. Sixth on this list is Kisses from Katie by Katie Davis Majors. This is the real life story, the memoir kind of Katie Davis Majors, who as an 18-year-old took kind of a hiatus between high school and college and followed God's call to Uganda. And whenever she takes this mission trip, she ends up as a teacher in this little Ugandan village. It's remarkable. It's really just so telling that when you follow God's call, even when it doesn't make sense, and even when you are like terrified, when you take that leap of faith, knowing that God called you in a direction, you really can't go wrong. You're entrusting your life to his care, and you're like, God, whatever you want me to do, I'll do. And that is the heart that she has, and just her heart and her vision for the world and the lost and children is just so beautiful and inspiring. It's one of the best like books that I've ever read from someone in real life, like someone's in real life story. It's one of the best and most inspiring ones I think I've ever read. On that note, please do read it. It is free on Kindle Unlimited. You're missing out if you don't. Sixth on this list is A Voice in the Wind by Francine Rivers. So you follow multiple POVs in this depiction of Jewish Christian life in the Roman Empire. In one POV, you are following Hadassah, who is a young Christian girl whose family gets murdered by the Roman Empire. And then she ends up as a servant in the household of a Roman family. And within that family, you are also following Marcus, who is like the son of the guy who owns the household. Don't remember his name, but yeah, Marcus is his son. And then he's got a sister named Julia, and they're both around Hadassah's age. And then separate from this household, you're also following this young Germanic soldier named Atreides. I think that's how you say his name. He is captured by the Roman Empire on the battlefield, and he is shipped off to Rome to train to be a gladiator in the arena. He is told that he can have his freedom again, but he has to fight for it, and he has to become this trained up gladiator, and he's not he's not ever going to see his family again unless he goes along with what the Roman Empire says. For the entertainment of the people, he ends up becoming a gladiator, and you're also following his perspective, which is very interesting. It's not pretty, but you know, the Roman Empire, not pretty, not fun. The end made me cry, like straight up cry. The end was a tragedy. It was a true tragedy. The 8th book on this list is How the Penguins Saved Veronica by Hazel Pryor. In this delightful, funny gem of a story, you are following Veronica, who is this little curmudgeon-y little old lady who also happens to be rich, like a millionaire type of rich. And throughout the story, you get little glimpses of her young adult life and her childhood and all of the events that shaped her into the person she is present time. And basically, she is rich, she's a millionaire, and she thinks she has no living relatives, but throughout the story you find out that she does have a living grandson named Patrick. But before she really knows about Patrick, she ends up, you know, she's deciding what to do with her money. She's got all this money, you know, she's preparing for the day that she passes away, and she ends up becoming fixated with this passion for penguins. And she ends up like emailing these scientists in Antarctica, and she's like, yeah, my name's Veronica and I'm coming there, so you're gonna have to deal with it. And basically these scientists email her back and they're like, no ma'am, you're freaking 90 years old, we cannot accommodate you in the Arctic. And she's like, yeah, well guess what, I've already booked my flight and I've already booked my ferry passage, so I'm coming. It was hilarious and it was lovely and it was touching and it was just all the things. I loved the hilarity that ensues with some of these passages. I want y'all to read this book so bad. I'm going to read you a passage in this book, okay? Just to give you some context, Veronica is like this curmudgeon-y little old lady with the fashion sense and style of the Queen of England. Just to give you an idea of the setting, Veronica is out following this scientist around as the scientist makes notes on this flock of penguins that they're observing, okay? Suddenly, there's a loud squawk and a sharp jabbing sensation in my leg. I drop the binoculars in shock and let out a sharp cry. A penguin is at my side, flippers lifted in indignation, beak poised for further action. Before I can do anything else, it gives my shin several more hard pecks and then fastens itself, hanging on just below my knee like a pair of pliers. My flesh feels the pain acutely through the waterproof trousers and long johns. Off! 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 Terry yells, grabbing it with both gloved hands. At once it lets go of my leg, only to attach itself to my second favorite scarlet handbag. I screech and use all my might to shake the bag. But the fierce little creature won't let go and is dragged in circles, feet flying. Only after the leather has been ripped beyond all hope of repair does it relinquish its grip and stumble off drunkenly. Tell me that's not funny. That's funny. There's multiple little gems of scenes in that book just like that. I loved it. It was fantastic. Must read. The 8th, 9th, and 10th book that I'm going to talk about in this video is the Kiss of Deception trilogy, like all three of them. The Beauty of Darkness, the last one in the series, could be a little bit shorter, but it's still on here as a favorite. So in this trilogy, you are following Princess Leia, who becomes Queen Leia, who sends Cassie off on the adventures in the duology. In this book, you're following Princess Leia, who runs away on the day of her wedding, decides she wants to be a peasant girl in her own kingdom, and then gets kidnapped by a neighboring kingdom, and then has to fight her way out, and then has to fight this battle with this kingdom that kidnapped her because they think they should be the ruler. And this man is like evil, and then there's like this whole love triangle situation, and it's a lot. It really is, but it's a good time and you must read it. I really do insist, like if you read it. Don't say anything until you read the first 5 chapters, okay? If you don't like it after the first 5, you know what, fine, at least you gave it a try. 5 stars, all of them, loved them so much. Moving on. The last book that I'm going to talk about today on this list is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. This was very unexpected. I picked this up at the library one day just because my car was going to be getting worked on and I wanted something to read and I wasn't feeling any of my Kindle books. So I just stopped at the library before going to get my car worked on and grabbed this because everybody likes this book. Everybody likes this show. So I was like, you know what? Why not give it a chance? And yes, Yes, it was. It was fantastic. It was lovely. It was delightful. You're following Alina, who is an orphan child. Okay, so my phone was so freaking disrespectful. It cut off the last little part of this. Yeah, it cut off the last little part of what I was talking about. Anyway, I was talking about Shadow and Bone. You're following Alina and Mal, who are basically two orphans. And in this world, there's a class of people called Grisha who have these magical abilities. And when you're a child, you are tested to see if you have these Grisha abilities. And when Alina and Mal were children, they were tested at this orphanage thing that they were staying at, and they did not have any magical powers. But then turns out later on, Alina does have magical powers. She's like super special, let's say. Yeah, and then you have the Darkling, who is like the antithesis of all of the positive powers that Alina has. He is like the antithesis, the anti-Alina, I guess. He's got all of these dark powers, she's got all of these light powers. I'm very interested to see throughout the story how these two worlds with these two powers and these two characters collide and crash. I want Alina to squash the freaking Darkling. But you see, the thing is, being someone who has not finished the series yet, I know that lots of people like the Darkling as a character, and I don't know if it's just because y'all are sick and twisted, or if it's because he's actually got a redemption story coming. He's giving creepy vibes, first of all, being like hundreds of years old like he is, acting like he is with Alina in the first book. I think the frick not. Like, take a step back, sir, before I stab you. Anyway, don't like him. Love Mal. Love Alina. Very excited to see where the story goes. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, or whatever other time of day it is for you. And I guess I'll see you next time. Have a good nap, drink some water, eat a good snack, watch a good show, read a good book, and I'll see you next time. Bye.